Hey, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So, today is day 7, and today I'm thinking of taking more of theoretical and not doing actual tests on the call. And most probably we'll try to complete the course from British Council. It's provided, and let's fast forward to all the course material and see what they want to say about the reading part, right? So yesterday we saw the earlier course, and we saw how to give like answers for fill in the blanks and yes, no, and not given. And today let's see the course that is provided here, and all the sections like how to approach the short sentences, answers, and everything about it, right? So let's start.
Hello and welcome to the class. My name is Daniel, and today we're going to be looking at skimming and scanning. If you have any questions after the class, you can go to the top of the screen, click on the chat icon to send us a message. This is the first of 2 classes and will last just over 20 minutes. First, we're going to talk about skimming, and then we're going to move on to talk about scanning. So by the end of this class, you should be more familiar with how those 2 reading skills can help with your reading in the Ielts. During the class, there'll be questions that appear below the video. I'll tell you when you need to answer them, and I'll give you 10 to 15 seconds to answer each one. So let's first look at what exactly skimming and scanning are. So they are 2 types of reading skills that help you to read faster without reading every word. And we'll see how they can do that in a moment. But why are they important? Well, they're really important for the Ielts because you only have 1 hour to answer 40 questions. So that's not really a lot of time. You have 3 texts. You have like a social survival text, workplace survival, and then a general reading. So 3 texts in 1 hour. That's basically 20 minutes for each text. So that's not really long. As I say, 20 minutes per text. This would even be difficult for a native speaker if they tried to read every single word. If I tried to read every word of all the texts in 1 hour, it would be difficult for me to do. So we have to find ways of reading or types of reading that we can do to make us read faster. So we're going to start with skimming. So let's have a little look at what it is. Well, skimming is reading part of a text or a whole text very quickly to get a general idea of what it is about. So you're not reading specific things within it. You're trying to get a general picture of the text or maybe of part of the text. And we call this type of reading skim reading. When should you skim read? Well, the first time you should skim read is when you first see a text. So you turn the page, you get one big text, lots of writing, and you should skim it. That should be one of the first things you want to do. So the first time you look at a text. Now, the reason why is that it helps you to build up a map of the text. And what I mean by that is when you then later try to find specific information, you'll be able to read the question and go, yes, I know where in the text that probably is because you've already skim read it. So it can help you to build up a map of the text. And you should do this before looking for specific details. So before trying to find the answer to question 1, the answer to question 2, it's a good idea to skim the text as a whole. We also can use it when we want to get the general idea of a long part of the text. So let's imagine that you have like a very long paragraph with lots of information in, and you want to just understand what is the main idea or the general idea in that paragraph. In that situation, you would skim read it. So we want to now think about how to actually skim read. We can see that it's important, but how do we do it? Well, the first thing you can do is to read the first sentence and the last sentence of each paragraph. Now, each paragraph usually contains one idea, and it's very often that the summary of that idea or what that idea is introduced in the first sentence of the paragraph. So just by reading the first sentence, usually you will have an idea of what is going to follow in the rest of the paragraph. And then by reading the last sentence as well, it can help you to understand a little bit more information about that whole paragraph. So that's the first step of skimming, is to read the first sentence and the last sentence of each paragraph. Then, a lot of the time in more general readings, you have the title and you have headings for paragraphs. And these are very useful because the title obviously gives you an idea of what the whole text is about. And then the headings, they usually give you an idea of what is contained after each heading. So read those as well, because they'll give you a lot of information about the text. Now, I would say that you want to spend between 2 and 3 minutes skimming when you skim. So if we've got 20 minutes for each reading text, an hour total, if you do 2 to 3 minutes for each one, that gives you 17 or 18 minutes to answer all of the questions. So that should be enough time to build a picture of it, and it will probably save you some time later when you're answering the questions. So it is a good idea to spend between 2 to 3 minutes. Not much longer than that, because if you spend too much time doing that, you won't have much time to answer the questions, and you're just trying to get a very general idea in this situation. Another thing that's important is to ignore any vocabulary that you don't know. If you see a word and you've never seen it before, don't sit and think, oh, what does it mean? What does it mean? Because you're wasting time, and time is really important here. So any vocabulary you don't know, don't worry about it. Just continue reading, keep finishing that sentence and finish the paragraph. And yes, it won't be too important to read every bit of vocabulary. So ignore any vocabulary you don't know. It's about 17 to 18 minutes per text to answer the questions. So like I say, if it's 2 to 3 minutes skimming, scanning, then you have about 17, 18 minutes for actually answering the questions. So we're going to have a bit of practice here, and let's have a look at this. So this is the title of the text we're going to be looking at. So it's a guide for employees, FlexiTime. It's a guide on a company's new FlexiTime system, and it comes from passage 2 of the general training reading, which is always a workplace context. So this could be like a training manual, or it could be a job description or something related to work. That's very common in passage 2 of the general training. So here we have the opening sentence of a paragraph. And what I'd like you to do is to look at question 1 below the video and say, which other information do you think would be in the rest of this paragraph? So what information is going to come here? Is it benefits to the employees, changes to lunch breaks and finishing times, or how the new system will be controlled? So I'm going to give you a moment to just read the task below the video and try to choose the correct option. Okay, well, if we just read this, it says the new flexi-time arrangement means that employees are expected to be at work during core hours of the working day, which are defined as 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. and 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. So you can see it's talking about core hours, it's talking about the working day, and it mentions some different times here to 4 p.m. So is it talking about benefits to employees in the rest of it? No, probably not. I very much doubt it. There's nothing about benefits or positive things here. Could it talk about changes to lunch breaks and finishing times? Well, it's talking about times here. It's talking about the core hours. So yes, I think probably in this section, it will talk about B. So B is going to be the correct answer. We'll just look at C. How the new system will be controlled. Well, it doesn't talk about machines or systems or anything like that, so it won't be C. So the correct answer there is B. So we can see that just by reading the first sentence of the paragraph, we have a good idea of what other information will be in the rest of that paragraph. Let's now move on to scanning. So what is scanning? Well, scanning is reading through a text quickly to find one specific piece of information. So you're looking for something specific. So if you remember, skimming was looking at the general idea. Scanning is just looking for something very specific. So when do we need to scan instead of skimming? Well, you want to scan to find part of a text which contains answers to a question. You also want to scan when you're looking for one specific piece of information. For example, if you're looking for a number or a date or a name, there's not really any way to have a synonym for that. So a number, if you're looking for a number, it's easy to quickly look for that number in the text. Or if you're looking for a person's name, again, it's very easy to just very quickly look for that name and then read the area where they are. So how do we do it? Well, the first thing is that we need to highlight the key words in the question. We're going to look at this in a minute. Then once we've chosen the keywords, once we've highlighted them, we need to think of synonyms for these keywords. So words that have the same meaning. So if it was a word like amazing was the keyword, maybe in the text it would say fantastic or wonderful. So you're looking for words that have the same meaning. The reason for this is that it's not very common that the text will contain the same words as in the question. That would be too easy. So usually the text contains synonyms. So we have to think of synonyms to look for. It's especially important to focus on numbers or dates, names of people or places. As I was saying before, there's not really any synonyms for those things. A person's name, if it's in the question, it will be the same person's name in the text. There's no way to have a synonym for a person's name. So once you've got those synonyms of the keywords, you need to read through the text to find that specific piece of information. If it's a number, you need to quickly read the text to try to find that number. If it's a person's name, you need to quickly read through the text to find that person's name. And then when you've found it, you'll read that carefully. So let's have a little bit of practice with this. So here's an example question. It says, what is the minimum number of weekly hours that an employee can work for? So first, we said with scanning, we need to think, what are the key words? Well, there's a few different types of keywords. Firstly, nouns and noun phrases. So in here, the nouns are what? This is a noun. We've got minimum, we've got number of hours, and we've got an employee. So these are all nouns from there, and they're some of the keywords. Also, you want verbs and verb phrases. For example, the verb work would be one. Then we could have adjectives, and here we've got the word weekly. Okay, so weekly is an adjective, so that would be a keyword. And adverbs and adverb phrases, but we don't have any here in this particular question. And you can see the other words are just small words, so these are not keywords. So all these other ones are keywords. Okay, so here is the question with the keywords underlined. Now, what we need to think is, what information do we need to scan for here? Well, this is a direct question. It says, what is the minimum number of weekly hours an employee can work? So we're looking for the number of hours. So we're looking for an amount, a number of hours. It could be like 20, 100, something like that in the text. We're looking for a number. So when we're scanning, we're going to just quickly look in the text for that number. And we're going to practice that now. So I want you to look at question 2 below the video and answer this. Scan through the paragraph to find an amount of time or a number of hours. Here it is. I'll just give you a moment to try to do that. Okay, so hopefully you've scanned through and you've been trying to find a number. Well, there's quite a few numbers here, but we're specifically looking for a number of hours that a person can work. So, well, we can see we've got 9:30, 12:30, 2 p.m., 4 p.m., 9 a.m., 5 p.m. So there's quite a lot here. It also has an hour here. That's just for lunch. But down here, it says 30. Hello, and welcome to the class. Will contain the same words underlined. There's quite a lot here. It also has an hour here. That's just for lunch. But down here, it says 35 hours. And we said we were looking for a number of hours specifically. So we can see this is probably a good option. So now that we found that number, we need to read that sentence carefully to check if it has the same meaning as this. So let's look at it. It says, however, employees now have the ability to start earlier in the morning, take a shorter, longer lunch break, or finish work later in order to complete their contracted weekly total of 35 hours. So contracted means that's how many they have to work. Okay, so an employee can work that number of hours. We've got weekly here. Weekly. If it's contracted, that is their minimum amount. So presumably they can work more, but that's their minimum amount of weekly hours. So yes, so we've looked at that, we've read the sentence, and we've gone, yes, that is the correct answer. So 35 hours would be correct there. And that's how you can use scanning in your reading to help you answer questions. Now, remember, if you have a question for us, you can go to the top of the screen and click on the chat icon to send us a message. Now, remember to take class 2 and to complete the online training and practice activities. Thank you very much for coming to the class. We'll see you again. Goodbye. Hello, and welcome to the class. My name's Daniel, and today we're going to be looking at skimming and scanning. If you have a question for us after the class, you can go to the top of the screen and click on the chat icon to send us a message. This is the second of 2 classes and will last just over 20 minutes. First, we're going to talk about short answer and matching features questions, and then we're going to move on to look at labeling diagrams. So by the end of this class, you'll be more familiar with these and how skimming and scanning can help you answer them. During the class, there'll be questions for you to answer. These will appear below the video. I'll tell you when you need to answer them, and I'll give you 10 to 15 seconds for each one. So let's get started with short answer questions. Well, what are short answer questions exactly? So these are direct questions. So questions that usually contain a question word like who, where, when, why, what, these types of questions, and they'll end with a question mark. Usually you have to answer with between 1 to 3 words and or a number. So if it says between 1 and 3 words, you wouldn't answer with 4. They usually refer to just part of the text and not the whole text. So you'll just be reading part of it. All the answers will be contained in that part. Now let's look at how to answer these. So the first thing you need to do is to highlight the key words in the question. That's the most important words, could be nouns, verbs, that type of thing. And then you need to think of synonyms for these. Then you have to go to the part of the text containing the answer. So remember, it's not about the whole text, so you need to find the part which has the answer and read that part. So you would then scan that part of the text for a sentence containing the keywords or containing synonyms of the keywords. And then finally, once you've found the sentence that you need, you have to read that sentence very carefully and check it with the question to find the answer. So let's now look at 2 examples of short answer questions. We can see here that we've got these 2 questions, and they're both short answer questions. We can tell because they've both got question words and they end with a question mark. Now, the first thing we said we need to do is to highlight all the keywords. So we want to look for like nouns, verbs, adjectives. So we've got here what as a morning activity, but the new timetable, and then we've got help parents with. Those would be the key parts there. And here we've got what noise, made to signify the machine, and read an employee's card. So those would be the key words in those 2 questions. Now, what I'd like you to do is look at the question below the video and read the first sentence of each of these paragraphs and decide in which one you would find the answer to question number 1. So is it A, the new flexi time arrangement means that employees are expected to be at work during core hours of the working day, which are defined as 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. and 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Would it be B, we have decided to implement this new system in order to allow more flexibility so the working day fits better with employees' lives? Or would it be C, all members of staff entering or exiting the building will use the current clocking in system located by the main doors? So I want you to say for question number 1, where would you find the answer to that? Okay, so well, let's have a little look at some of the keywords and see what they connect to. Well, we're looking for a morning activity and it can help parents. So we could look at this here, talking about the working day. So the working day is broken into like morning and afternoon, so it could be connected to morning activities. It talks about fitting in better and flexibility. So probably that's connected with helping parents, certainly. So I would imagine that the correct answer for 1 would be somewhere here in this paragraph. Now look at the next question below the video and do the same for question number 2. Which of the paragraphs would you find that in? Okay, so again, let's have a look for keywords. Well, here we have the machine. And if we look at C, it talks about the clocking in system. So that's going to be a type of machine. And it also talks about employees here. And we've got all members of staff entering the building. So I would imagine that the answer to that question would be in this paragraph here. So if you imagine this as a whole text, you wouldn't need to read every paragraph to know where the answers to those questions are. You just need to usually read the first sentence and maybe the last sentence, and you can go, okay, probably the answer is in paragraph B, or probably the answer is in paragraph C. So this is how skimming can help you to answer short answer questions. Okay, so that last slide showed us how to skim to find the correct paragraph. We now have here the correct paragraph. What we now need to do is scan that paragraph to try to find the answer to question 1 here. So if you look at question 3 below the video and scan the paragraph and see if you can find the answer to this question. Okay, so well, one of the keywords here is morning activity. And we can scan through this and you'll see here it talks about morning or in the morning. So we found this. Now what we need to do is to read this sentence carefully and hopefully the answer will be here. So it says, we hope that the new system will allow staff more time in the morning for the school run. So this here for the school run, this would be what we're looking for. And yes, so we would just put what morning activity could the new timetable help parents with? The answer would just be the school run, because remember, it will only be a maximum of 3 words and or a number. So we've scanned for morning, we found the paragraph, then we've scanned for morning, we've read that sentence, and we found here the school run is the answer. Let's try for the next paragraph now. So again, we found this paragraph, and I would like you to look at question 4 below the video and try to find the answer. Okay, let's look together. Well, one of the keywords here, we've got cards, and we can see we've got the word card here and card here. We also have the word machine. Now, a synonym for machine is device. So, okay, probably this sentence is where we can find the answer. So let's read this sentence carefully. Just be sure to clock in and out by putting the card into the card device until you hear a beep. Here, if you hear something, that's a noise. And so a beep would be the correct answer to this. So you hear a beep. So that's how we can use skimming and scanning to answer these short answer questions. First skimming to find the paragraph, and then scanning to find the specific answer in the paragraph. Now let's move on to matching features questions. So what are matching features questions? Well, these are where you have to match statements to a list. So it could be, for example, people or places or paragraphs. So you have a list of statements and you have to say maybe who said this, or where did this happen, or which paragraph contains this information. So that would be a matching features question. Instead of focusing on just part of the text, it focuses on the whole text. So you're often having to read the whole text to try to find the answers. The answers don't appear in order, like with short answer questions. So the answer to the first question might be in paragraph 6, and the answer to the second question might be in paragraph 1. So you have to jump around the paragraphs a lot to find the answers. You can also use the same answer more than once. So if it's one person's name, you can use that person's name 2 times, maybe 3 times. You don't only use them once. And not every option is always used. So if you've got 6 paragraphs, maybe you only need 4 paragraphs, and 2 you don't need to talk about. So let's look at how to answer them. Well, the first thing, again, similar to short answer questions, is to highlight the keywords and think of synonyms for them. Particularly things like names and dates can help you when you're going to scan for the answer. So if you have a name, that's perfect, because a name doesn't change. It will just have the person's name directly in the text somewhere. You can quickly look for the name to try to find the answer. Once you've done that, once you've highlighted the keywords and thought of synonyms, you need to scan the text for a sentence containing the keywords. Or as we saw before, it could be a sentence containing a synonym for the keywords. Like we saw with machine, it didn't directly have the word machine, it used the word device instead. Then when you've found that sentence, you need to read that sentence carefully. Now let's look at an example of this type of question. So we can see here we've got a matching features question. It says, for which course is the following statement true? So we've got a statement here, and we have to match it to one of these courses, so A or B. So the first thing we need to do is to highlight keywords. So let's look. It says it's perfect. Perfect is a keyword. If you manage, the verb manage, and then your own company. And what I would like you to do now is look at question 5 below the video and read those 2 paragraphs and choose which one matches that statement. I'll just give you a moment to try that. Okay, so let's now check our answers together. Well, remember we have to scan for these keywords in here, or synonyms of the keywords. Well, let's start with perfect. Well, you can see here we've got the word ideal. Ideal and perfect have the same meaning, but we also have ideal down here. So we need to look a little bit more. So we've got the word manage. Well, this is about leadership, so maybe it's about managing. So we could possibly read this sentence. It says ideal for focusing on improving your team management skills, such as planning and monitoring projects and team building. Now let's look at this other one. It says this course is ideal for those currently running businesses. Currently running businesses or working in management. Again, we've got management. But running a business and managing your own company, they have the same meaning. So B is the correct answer here. Now let's move on to labeling diagram questions. So these are particularly common in the 3rd reading text for the general training. So what are they exactly? Well, you have to label a diagram with words from the text. So the words that you need will always be in the text. You won't have to change them at all. It focuses on part of the text, not the whole text. So you need to find that part of the text. And again, not necessarily in order. So if you have the answer to the first part here, maybe the answer to the second part is here, or maybe the answer to the second part is here. It's not always in order. So let's now look at how to answer these types of questions. Well, first, you need to look at the instructions and see how many words you need for each gap. Is it 1 word, 2 words, 3 words? It will always tell you in the instructions. Then you need to highlight the keywords. Now, because it's a diagram, there probably won't be a lot of keywords, but you need to highlight the words that are already in the diagram. And if you can, to think of synonyms. Sometimes there won't be synonyms, sometimes they'll just use the keywords with diagrams. After this, you need to try to predict which types of words are needed in the gaps. So what I mean by that is, if you see a gap, is it missing a verb? Or is it missing an adjective? Or is it missing a noun? You need to try to predict these. Then once you've done that, you need to scan the text and find the part of it that contains the information. So remember, it's not about the whole text. You're just trying to find one part of it that contains that information. And when you found that, you need to read that part carefully to find the missing words. So let's have some practice. So we can see here, it says label the diagram. And here's the first step. It says use no more than 2 words for each answer. So we're going to just need 1 or maybe 2 words for each answer. And let's have a look first at it. So we can see here, we've got the gaps here, 1, 2, and 3. And we need to think, what are the keywords? Well, the keywords here, we've got magnetic resonance imaging machine. So that's a keyword. That's the name of the thing. So if you looked for that in the text, it should be quite easy to find. You look for the word machine or you look for magnetic, and you should be able to easily find that part of the text. Also, these words here, gradient coils and magnets, there's not any synonyms for those words because they're quite technical words. So again, if you scan for those words, it will help you to find the part of the text that you need. Now, the word patient, maybe you could have some synonyms. Maybe you could have the word person or human or something like that. So we can have synonyms for that. Have a look at questions 6 to 8 below the video. Read this passage, this paragraph, and see if you can find the missing words for the diagram. Okay, Well, let's have a scan through the text. Well, we can see here we said that magnetic resonance imaging machine. We've got MRI, that's magnetic resonance imaging. So we can see that here, and that would help us to find this part of the text. Also, we said gradient coils was another key word, which we can find here, gradient coils. And we've got the word magnet here as well. So we've found the part of the text, and we need to read this carefully. So it says, this machine is a large tube which contains a large donut-shaped magnet. We've already got magnet here. The person, so it's got person instead of patient, lies on the patient platform just outside of the machine. So we can see this is inside, this is outside of the machine. So number 2, the answer would be patient platform. So we found the answer to 2. Before being inserted into the opening of the machine, known as the bore. So this opening, this round bit here, that would be number 1, and the answer there would be the bore. They are then surrounded by the gradient coils, which we found, and magnet. Magnetic waves are then passed through the patient's body and picked up by a scanner at the base of the machine. The base is here, means the bottom. So what is the base? It's a scanner. So the correct answer for 3 would be scanner. So we can see how we've used scanning to find the correct area of the text that we need to read, and then we've read it carefully to try to find the answers to this question. If you have any questions, remember you can go to the top of the page and click on the chat icon to send us a message. Now remember to complete the online training and do the extra practice activities. Thank you so much for joining the class. I'll see you again. Goodbye. Have a look at questions 6 to 8 below the video. Read this passage, this paragraph, and see if you can find the missing words for the diagram. Okay, well, let's have a scan through the text. Well, we can see here we said that magnetic resonance imaging machine. We've got MRI, that's magnetic resonance imaging. So we can see that here, and that would help us to find this part of the text. Also, we said gradient coils was another key word, which we can find here, gradient coils. And we've got the word magnet here as well. So we found the part of the text, and we need to read this carefully. So it says, this machine is a large tube which contains a large donut-shaped magnet. We've already got magnet here. The person, so it's got person instead of patient, lies on the patient platform just outside of the machine. So we can see this is inside, this is outside of the machine. So number 2, the answer would be patient platform. So we found the answer to 2. Before being inserted into the opening of the machine, known as the bore.
So let's move on to the next section. So look at the title and first sentence of this text. Drones in filming. More often recent year drones from a term to describe remote controlled autonomous aircraft experienced sharp rise in popularity for production. What is the text most likely to be about? Using aircraft, right? With this type of question, we are given some questions which have to answer with the correct words from the text, and remember its answer are usually found in the text in same order. And this question 2 will come after the one answer come after only the one section of the text, not from the whole text. You must copy the word from the text exactly. You cannot change the word, and you will not get a mark if you make a spelling mistake. Questions will always tell you maximum number of words, for example 0, so no more than 3 words, and the answer may be 1, 2 or 3, but you will get a 0 mark if you write 4 words. If this type of question, you have to complete the missing information. What is true about missing information? You have to choose 4. You can always find the answer to the question in the text. Sometimes you can't find the answer to the question in the text and you must leave an answer. No, not this correct. The answer are in a different order. No, same order. The answer comes from one area. The text may be 1, 2, 3. The answer comes from the text. You must use exactly same words that you. Okay, sorry, my bad. You must have. Okay. To read the general advice again, use the arrow to go back to the question answers. Okay. If you write the correct answer but make a spelling mistake, what 0. To read the general advice again, look at the question. How many words can you write for each answer? 1, 2 or 3. Choose 2, right? So next. You should look at the question before reading the text. Remember this type of question in section of the text, not the whole text. You should also think about the type of word is needed in the answer. Kind of check. It's a good idea to underline the keywords in the question to help you focus on what you need and information. Scan and read. Scan means so that you can read the right section of the text quickly. Name places are bigger than standard letters are easy to see. Other words that cannot be easily paraphrased are also good to scan for. Sometimes the answer to the questions will be a name, the name of the person or organization. Skim the text and if you have a scannable word or so look at the question. Different students have underlined the keyword in the summary. Which student A or B has underlined the best words? Keyword as a drone most used. Okay. Which was filmed by drone technology. Drone allows quality. Which film showed most commonly film. Which volcano filmed close drone? What one student? Which film showed What kind of word is probably needed for each answer? What kind of word is probably needed for each answer? Verb or verb phrase. What kind of word is probably needed for each answer? Noun or noun. Different type of word phrase is needed in each cap. Let's go back. The answer is noun or noun phrase, but not always. Check. Noun or noun phrase. Noun or noun phrase, that is the most common type of word you have to use. Which question will need a name for an answer? Name. Which volcano was filmed? Second. Choose two, sorry. What quality which film showed? Fourth. In this question, look at question 2. Which volcano was filmed close by drone technology? In this question, there are two very specific words. Question number 2, volcano was filmed